At a family gathering, Mom said, "Your sister just bought an expensive apartment. You could never do that?" So I smiled and replied that I did this 2 years ago. No one cared to ask. They demanded a housewarming party, and I just sat staring at my phone in disbelief. My mother had just called, inviting me to dinner at my parents' house. It had been months since we'd spoken and years since I'd visited them. "I'm Kate. I'm 32 years old, and I'm the black sheep of the family, or at least that's how they see me. Growing up, I was always the second choice. My younger sister Amanda was the favorite, the golden girl who never made mistakes, was prettier, more charming, and had this ability to win everyone over, especially our parents. Not that they were cruel to me, you could just tell who they preferred. The dance recital they missed because they were too busy. Somehow when it was Amanda's turn, time appeared. My average grades provoked lectures, but hers meant she's doing her best. I sighed and put the phone on the marble countertop. Its coolness reminded me of this little luxury in the apartment I never told them about. Why was Mom calling now? What did they want? Okay, I muttered to myself, I'll go. A week later, I arrived at my parents' simple suburban house. I deliberately dressed simply, jeans, a basic blouse, few accessories, nothing suggesting I wasn't the mediocre manager they imagined. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Dad opened the door. "Kate, come in, come in." His reception was warm but a bit distracted. As soon as I crossed the living room, I saw why. Amanda was on the couch, putting on a show for Mom and Dad, who hung on her every word as she told some work anecdote. She paused when she saw me, her perfect smile unchanged. "Oh, the prodigal daughter returns," she said with fake sweetness. Mom immediately stood up. "Kate, dear, so glad you came." She gave me a quick hug and promptly returned to sit next to Amanda. I settled into an armchair across from them, watching as Amanda scanned my clothes with barely disguised contempt. "I love that vintage thrift store style," she commented sarcastically. "Thanks," I replied. "Don't worry, not all of us need brand names to feel good." Dad cleared his throat. "Well, Kate, your mother prepared something delicious for dinner. It'll be ready in about 20 minutes. We talked about superficial things until Mom called us to the table, the same table from our childhood, but now it seemed part of another life. Dad served wine. Amanda resumed her leading role, talking about her job at the marketing agency. They literally begged me to take over the Johnson account. They say I'm the only one who can handle it. "That's wonderful, darling," said Mom, touching her hand with pride. Dad turned to me. "And you, Kate, still at the same company? What was it again?" "You were an assistant of some sort." I took a sip of wine before answering. "I'm still at Berkshire Financial." "Really?" Amanda let out a laugh. "Seriously? 8 years in the same position? Most people would have been promoted by now." I clenched my jaw but kept my composure. They didn't know I'd been a financial director for 3 years, that my annual bonus exceeded Amanda's entire salary, that last year I appeared on Business Weekly's 40 under 40 list. But I never told them. They never cared. I just smiled. "Not everyone follows the same pace or has your talent," Mom added, serving more mashed potatoes to Amanda. Dinner continued in the same rhythm, Amanda showing off, my parents admiring her, and me simply present. "I've been saving for Hawaii for months," Amanda commented. "But when you earn well, it's not that difficult." She gave me a look loaded with self-sufficiency. "Good for you," I replied, putting down my fork. "But I need to go. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Thanks for dinner." I got up and grabbed my purse. Mom walked me to the door. "It was good to see you, dear," she said, touching my shoulder. Driving back to my downtown apartment, a suspicion wouldn't leave me in peace. This reunion had a hidden motive. Whatever it was, I was happy to be back home. Once in my spacious apartment, I took off my shoes and poured myself a glass of real wine, not the cheap stuff they served there. Just as I settled on the balcony with a view of the illuminated city, my phone vibrated with a message. "Hope you're not too sad about your pathetic life, sis." Not everyone can be successful. Don't worry, I'll send you a postcard from Hawaii. I looked at the message for a while and then left. If only she knew. I deleted the message, took another sip of wine, and enjoyed the view from the 16th floor of my luxury building. My relationship with my family wasn't always like this. As a child, before Amanda was born, everything was different. I remember Dad throwing me up in the air, Mom telling me stories at night. But everything changed when Amanda arrived when I was 4. She was an angelic baby, hardly ever cried, always smiling, with huge blue eyes that enchanted everyone. By age 10, I understood my place. Amanda was special. I was just there. I did everything to earn their approval: clubs, studying until dawn, volunteering in high school. I was the best student, debate team captain, yearbook editor. At my graduation, I looked for their proud faces in the audience, but their seats were empty. They had gone to Amanda's dance competition that day. Something broke inside me. I understood I would never be enough for them, so I stopped trying. I got a full scholarship to Princeton, graduated with honors, and started at Berkshire Financial. In 5 years, I was already leading a team, and 3 years ago, I was promoted to financial director. They know nothing about this. The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Mom again. I hesitated but answered. "Next Saturday, we're having a family gathering," she said. "Everyone's coming: Aunt Carol, Uncle Jim, your cousins. We'd love for you to come." I frowned. "And what are we celebrating?" "Oh, just a special announcement," she said with a mysterious tone. I should have said no, but curiosity got the better of me. "Okay, what time?" "At 4, Kate. Try to dress appropriately." I hung up furious, as if I were in the habit of going in pajamas. On Saturday, standing in front of my closet, I hesitated. I chose an elegant, understated, expensive black Chanel dress. To most people, it would look simple, but it was worth more than Amanda's monthly salary. When I arrived, the driveway was full of cars. I recognized several relatives' vehicles. I took a deep breath and entered. "Kate," shouted Aunt Carol, hugging me. "It's been years since I've seen you. What a formal woman you've become." "A pleasure to see you too, Aunt Carol," I smiled. For 15 minutes, I chatted with relatives I barely remembered, while my parents and Amanda whispered in a corner, glancing at me from time to time. Whatever they were going to announce had them very excited. I never liked family gatherings, all those fake smiles, those passive-aggressive comments disguised as interest, the way everyone asks about you just to compare you to someone else. But this afternoon was different because I knew something they didn't, and I was tired of pretending. Mom stood up with her wine glass in hand, a smile that almost seemed real. "Dear family," she said, tapping lightly on the crystal with a small spoon. "Thank you for being here today. It's a very special day. Amanda has something incredible to share with everyone." There it was, the big announcement. Amanda stood up like a model on a runway, with that gleam in her eyes she only had when everyone was looking at her. Her voice sounded measured, as if she had rehearsed in front of the mirror. "I've been offered a position as regional marketing director at a very prestigious company in Miami," she said, as if she'd just been chosen to save the world. "I'm moving in a month." The applause was immediate. Aunt Carol even stood up to hug her. Mom looked about to cry with emotion. I just helped myself to more wine. "I'm very excited," Amanda continued, sweeping her gaze across the room until she found me. "Not everyone has the opportunity to grow. Some prefer the comfortable." I looked at her, not with fury, but with an icy calm I had cultivated over the years. "Comfortable?" I said in a low voice, loud enough for everyone to hear. Amanda blinked. She hadn't expected a response. "Yes," she replied with a fake smile. "I mean those who spend years in the same job, in the same position, and, well, if that makes them happy." Everyone's eyes turned to me. Mom pursed her lips. Dad picked up his glass with a certain tension in his jaw. I put mine on the table and slowly stood up. "Well, I suppose since we're sharing achievements, I said, I can tell you that 3 years ago I was promoted to financial director at Berkshire Financial. You know it, a multinational company. I manage the finances of 3 regions and lead a team of 40 people. Absolute silence. The uncomfortable kind that feels like an echo. What? Mom murmured. Yes, Mom. I earn very well, much better than as an assistant of some sort, as you used to say. In fact, last year I appeared on Business Weekly's 40 under 40 list. But of course, since no one ever asked, I never mentioned it. Amanda was looking at me with narrowed eyes. She didn't know whether she was more surprised or furious, probably both. I opened my purse, took out my phone, and held it up. And speaking of which, I added, since we're being honest, this message you sent me after the last dinner, remember? I clicked and read aloud. Hope you're not too sad about your pathetic life, sis. Not everyone can be successful. Don't worry, I'll send you a postcard from Hawaii. Some relatives let out small gasps. Uncle Jim adjusted uncomfortably in his chair. Mom seemed to be searching for an explanation in the ceiling. It was a joke, said Amanda with a forced little laugh. Between sisters. No, Amanda, I interrupted. Yours was never a joke. It was always a competition that only you believed you were winning. I turned to my parents. They remained silent, pale as if they didn't know at what point they had stopped knowing me. And you too, are you going to say something? Because I spent my entire life seeking your approval, and in the end, I realized I didn't need it. You chose a favorite, and it wasn't me. That's fine. But today you have to see the woman I've become without your help, and you can't pretend you didn't know. Dad's mouth opened slightly, but no word came out. Thanks for dinner, I said, picking up my purse. It was good to see everyone, even if for the last time. I walked to the door. Before leaving, I turned one more time to Amanda. And about that new position? Be careful with the reports you present. You sent me 1 month ago for me to correct. It was full of errors. I saved you that time. There won't be a next one. I left. No door slam, no tears, just the certainty of having said everything I needed to say, and for the first time in many years, I felt free. The building's elevator still smelled of cheap perfume and reheated empanadas as I descended to the ground floor. I looked at myself in the internal mirror. I was intact, makeup in place, dress without a single wrinkle, posture erect, but something in my eyes had broken, not from sadness, from exhaustion. When I went out onto the street, the air was colder than I expected. I took a deep breath, took a step, and the phone vibrated. First a call from Mom, ignored. Then a message from Dad. Can we talk? I blocked it for 5 minutes, not because I was angry, that had passed, but because I knew this call would be full of excuses I wasn't interested in. I walked to my car, opened the door, and sat in silence with my hands on the steering wheel. I didn't want to go straight home, not yet. The adrenaline was trembling in my ribs. I put an address in the GPS that I hadn't typed in years. I headed to the university cafe I used to frequent when I studied at Princeton. A new version had opened in the city. 25 minutes later, I was there. Same logo, same menu, as if someone had tried to bottle memories. I entered. There weren't many people. I sat in a corner and ordered a double espresso, no sugar. I took out my phone and opened Instagram. Amanda had already posted a selfie from the family announcement, everyone smiling. Mom with teary eyes, Dad applauding, her in the center. Blessed with so much love, said the caption. I almost spat out my coffee. After 5 minutes, I received another message from an unknown number. Hello, I'm Martin. I don't know if you remember me, second cousin, Aunt Sophia's son. I was at the meeting today. Can we talk? I blinked. Martin. Yes, I remembered a short, shy boy who was always stuck to his mother at reunions years ago. He had grown up and apparently was there observing everything. About what? I replied. His response was immediate. About Amanda and about something I think you should know. I gave him my location. In less than 20 minutes, he appeared. He was taller than I remembered, with slightly messy hair and square glasses. He wore a shirt with rolled-up sleeves and looked like someone about to say something important they had been holding onto for a long time. He sat across from me without asking permission. I didn't mind. "You were brutal today," he said without preamble. "Thank you. It was about time. I want to tell you something because I think it might affect you, or protect you, or help you. I don't know." I made a gesture for him to speak. "Amanda didn't get that job in Miami." I stared at him. "How? Was all this a lie?" "Well, half a lie. Yes, she applied but was rejected. I work at that same company." The presentation she sent was a disaster. There's an internal list of the worst candidates of the month. She's in the top 5. I leaned back in my chair. My heart was beating fast, not from surprise, from confirmation. "And that's not all," he continued. "I heard your parents before you arrived. They were planning the announcement as if it were real. They knew. They knew everything but still presented her as a star." I remained silent, not even sure which part hurt more, the lie or the collaboration. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you were the only honest person there. And because I like you even though you don't know me." I observed him for a moment. "Do you have proof?" He nodded. He took out his phone, looked for an email, showed me a PDF file with internal comments from the selection department. "Amanda Johnson, technical weakness, inflow data, not viable for the position. A friend passed this to me. He also knows it was all an act." I closed my eyes for a moment. I took a deep breath. "Thank you," I finally said. "I don't know what I'll do with this, but thank you. Do whatever you want, but in case you're interested," he opened a folder on his phone. "There's a position that just opened in my department. Senior BP Manager. I'd like to work with you." I smiled for the first time that night. "Are you inviting me to apply?" "No, I'm asking you to come fix the chaos that others like Amanda have left." I leaned toward him. "And what does it take?" "Courage, coldness, and excellent memory." I had it all. I left the cafe after 11. On my phone, 5 more unread messages. One from Mom. "What you did wasn't fair. Your sister is unwell. We'll talk later." I blocked it. I had already said enough for one night. The next day, I woke up before sunrise, not because I had something urgent to do, but because my body was still on alert mode. The family dinner, the lies, Martin's revelation, everything was spinning in my head like a broken dryer. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling as the city began to move down below. The email with the PDF was still on my phone like a bomb about to explode. I reread it 3 times. Each line was another stake in the myth of perfection my family had built around Amanda. It was ironic. While I built a real career without anyone noticing, she was mounting a fragile facade, and everyone applauded her as if it were marble. It wasn't. It was cardboard painted with cheap gold. I got up, prepared coffee, and sat in front of my laptop. Martin was right. There was a position, a very juicy one. Not that I needed the job, but what better way to close a circle than by entering through the door that closed in Amanda's face? I opened my resume, updated it, drafted the personalized cover letter. Direct, elegant. I sent it. 20 minutes later, an automatic confirmation. Hours later, a human response. "We'd love to meet you. Availability for an interview this week." I replied yes. I smiled, not for the job, for the silent message this would send. At 5 in the afternoon, the phone rang. It was Mom again. This time I let it ring. Then came a message. "Your sister is devastated. Says she can't get out of bed. Are you happy now?" I didn't respond. What irony. A lifetime minimizing my emotions, and now suddenly Amanda's sadness was a national tragedy. But that wasn't what bothered me. What bothered me was the fact that still, even after everything, my mother expected me to feel guilty. 2 days later, I was at the interview. Glass skyscraper, 41st floor, view of the bay. "Ms. Johnson," the director of operations said to me, "I won't lie, We already had an internal candidate in mind, but your profile impressed us. I'm happy to hear that, I replied, and I know this may sound inappropriate, but do you have any relation to Amanda Johnson? I looked him in the eyes. Yes, she's my younger sister. He leaned back in his chair, curious. She applied recently and didn't pass the filter. Not so curious, I said, crossing my legs. Sometimes having the same last name doesn't mean having the same level of preparation. The man smiled, made a note. I returned home that night with a strange mixture of calm and expectation. I knew that by accepting this job, I was entering new territory, one where I didn't have to hide who I was, what I had achieved, or how much I was worth. But it was also an act of silent warfare, a declaration. The next day was even better. Martin called me. Have you seen Amanda's Instagram? No, why? She posted that she's reconsidering her next steps, that she declined an opportunity because she prefers to focus on personal projects. I let out a laugh that escaped me unintentionally. Of course, personal projects. Lying to everyone? Her parents? Heart emojis? Obviously. When the lie is comfortable, no one wants the truth. Silence on the line. Then Martin spoke. Hey, and if I invited you to dinner, would it be weird? I blinked, not from surprise, but because my brain took a second to make the transition from cold revenge plan to someone is flirting with me. Depends. Does dinner include decent wine? The best. And no stories about perfect cousins? None. Then maybe yes. That night, already in my pajamas, I received one last message from Mom. Short, cold. I don't recognize who you've become. I looked at it for a while with my finger hovering over the screen and finally wrote, I do. I've become someone who no longer needs your approval. Send. Silence. And, for the first time, this silence was mine. Martin arrived punctual. He brought a bottle of Chilean wine and a smile that suited him too well to be part of my family. We dined at a discreet Italian restaurant, without pretentious lights or ridiculously decorated dishes, just good food and unfiltered conversations. Have you always been like this? He finally asked while dipping a piece of bread in olive oil. So direct. No. It took years to stop asking for permission to exist, I replied. He nodded as someone who understands without judging. I liked that. I didn't want consolation. I wanted a clean look. Almost at the end of dinner, my phone vibrated. Email notification. I opened it. It was from Martin's company. Formal offer. Very high salary, obscene benefits, a short message. We hope you accept. Your profile is exactly what we need. Martin looked at me. I saw that he knew but didn't say anything, just raised his glass. To what's to come, he said. We toasted. 2 days later, I signed the contract, accepted the position, and with that, I accepted something else. I was no longer the Kate who pretended to be less to not bother others. I was no longer going to bend to fit into spaces that didn't want me complete. But of course, the universe wasn't going to let me savor this in peace. One morning, while checking emails on my balcony, the building's doorman called me. There was an envelope for me, no return address. I went down, received it. Upon opening it, I found a wrinkled printed sheet and a photograph. The sheet was a letter from Dad. Kate, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to say it. Your mother isn't well. She's been very affected since the meeting. Says she can't sleep, that she feels she's lost her daughters. I don't know what to do. She'll never accept that she was wrong, but she's suffering. If you could come to the house this week, maybe we could talk. The photograph disarmed me a little. It was old. I was about 8 years old in a blue dress, sitting on Dad's lap, smiling with all my teeth. Amanda hadn't been born yet. I remembered that day. We had gone to an amusement park. Dad had won a huge stuffed animal for me at a ring toss game. Mom was laughing. For a second, we were a family. I returned to the balcony with the letter in my hand. I stayed there for a long time, not because I wanted to forgive, but because despite everything, this story was also mine. The following Saturday, I went. I didn't warn them. I rang the doorbell and waited. Dad opened it. His expression was one of absolute shock. "Kate, I just came to get something I left," I lied. Mom appeared in the hallway. She was thinner, deep-eyed bags, but when she saw me, she straightened up as if nothing was wrong. "Didn't expect to see you," she said. "I know. Came to continue humiliating? I've done enough with the truth." "No." She pursed her lips. "I always thought you were tougher, but you turned out to be cruel." "I'm not cruel, Mom. I'm a woman who got tired of swallowing silence so you could sleep peacefully." We looked at each other for a long time. No one lowered their gaze. Finally, I spoke. "Martin told me the truth. That you knew about Amanda's job, that you lied to maintain the farce." Dad ran his hand over his face. "It was your mother's idea." "Of course it was mine," said Mom, raising her voice. "And what did you want? That we let her fall in front of everyone? Your sister was destroyed. My sister was stuck in a lie, and you preferred to sustain it rather than confront it. And on top of that, used me as a target." Silence. "I broke my back for years," I continued. "I achieved everything I have alone. But for you, that doesn't count because I wasn't shouting it from the rooftops." Dad lowered his head. "Mom didn't. She never does." "You know what else Martin told me?" I said, approaching her. "That you said, Kate will never know. She never notices anything." "Is that what you thought? That I'm stupid?" Mom opened her mouth but had no answer. "I didn't come to reconcile anything," I said firmly. "I just wanted you to see me face to face, without disguises. This is me, the one you created to be invisible, the one who survived without you." I turned, but before crossing the door, I stopped. "And by the way, I resigned from Berkshire. I accepted the position Amanda couldn't get. I'll occupy that office, and I'll do that job as it should be done." So yes, I left, this time without looking back. In the car, I took a deep breath. I looked in the rearview mirror. The house of my childhood was diminishing like a memory that finally stopped hurting. The cell phone vibrated. A message from Martin. "Does it seem good to celebrate with sushi and wine tonight?" I smiled. "Only if you choose the wine this time." "I choose everything else." The wine bottle was open, 2 full glasses, a carefully selected sushi list, and Martin sitting on my sofa as if he had always been there. We didn't talk much. It was one of those comfortable silences, the kind you only get when 2 people don't feel the need to impress. "And how did you feel?" he finally asked between sips of dry white. "The house white." I shrugged. "Liberating. Not because I gained something, but because I finally stopped losing energy with them." Martin nodded. In the way he looked at me, there was no pity. There was respect, and that was worth more than any family applause. The rest of the night flowed smoothly, laughter, long looks, a connection I wasn't looking for but now didn't want to let go of. The following Monday, everything was set in motion. My arrival at the company wasn't silent. My name had already run through the corridors. Some looked at me with respect, others with distrust. They knew someone else had wanted this position. They knew who. And although no one said it out loud, the Johnson last name was an uncomfortable echo. My assistant, Valerie, was direct. "Your sister applied." Some here thought the position would be hers. When she didn't get it, she disappeared. No one understood what happened. "What happened is that someone had to do the job well," I said, reviewing the report on my desk. "And now it's me?" Valerie smiled as if she had been waiting for someone to finally say the obvious. That same afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Amanda. "Can we talk?" I opened the message slowly. It just said, "I won't ask for forgiveness, but I need to explain something to you. I don't have that right, but if you'll accept a coffee, I'll pay." I left it unanswered for 2 days. I thought about ignoring it completely, but something inside me wanted to see her. Not for her, for me. We met at a neutral cafeteria in a neighborhood where no one knew us. She arrived punctually. She wore dark glasses, a loose sweater. She seemed smaller. "Thank you for coming," she said, taking off her glasses. "I didn't know if you would come. I still don't know why I came. She swallowed hard. Her nails were undone. That said a lot. I know I hurt you many times, and I know that for years I was cruel, more than you deserved. I said nothing, just waited. But it wasn't just arrogance, she continued. It was fear. I always felt you were smarter, more capable, but Mom and Dad always put me in front, and I believed it or pretended to believe it. And when you started to fail, no one wanted to see, I whispered, until you shouted in front of everyone. I sighed. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I got tired of disappearing so you could shine. I know, and you deserved that. So why did you write to me? Amanda looked at me fixedly, without makeup, with swollen eyes. Because I was left with nothing. I lost my job, credibility, and now Mom and Dad don't know how to sustain this version of me that no longer works. They never really cared about me, just about the idea they had of me. That hurt me more than I expected. And you were real, she added with a knot in her throat. You built a life. I just repeated phrases. I saw her break without crying, just with that tremor in the voice that can't be faked. Do you want my forgiveness? I asked. No, I no longer deserve it. Then what do you want? Amanda lowered her gaze. A sister, if there's still anything that can be saved. I kept looking at her. I thought of all the times I had waited for an apology, a word, a gesture, and there it was. Late, yes, but alive. I don't trust you, I said without softening, but we could start from scratch. In another language. In another.